want to transition to an NFL story. So Tom Brady, who is back in the league, unretired, he just signed a lucrative, to say the least, contract with Fox Sports, 10 years, $375 million post retirement to be their lead NFL analyst and likely to serve in some other capacities, be an ambassador of Fox Sports for some promotional and perhaps fundraising opportunities. Who knows? His role will be extensive given the fact he's making $37 million a year, but the main role and his primary responsibility is going to be the lead analyst on their Fox broadcasts. So this 10-year, $375 million, it's the largest sportscasting contract ever. And obviously, Tom Brady, we had thought retired back in February. He retired for 6 weeks, came back out of retirement, said, I'm done with retirement. And obviously, this deal is put in place for the future. Whenever he decides that it's time to hang up the cleats for real, this offer and this job will be waiting for him in media. And it's almost kind of hard to believe that Tom Brady will be in media, because this is the first time that a guy really of his stature is continuing on in the media space. Normally, the Jordans, the Kobes, the LeBrons, whenever Tiger Woods decides to retire, these types of guys don't tend to take media jobs because they are bigger than that. Now, the closest kind of comparison, you could say Shaq's on Inside the NBA, but even Shaq, as dominant as he is, we're talking about the greatest football player to have ever played the game, the most popular athlete in the space of football, serving as an analyst. And that's huge. That's huge. And this guy is 44 years of age, and he's likely taking this year by year. And after the 2021 season, because of how productive he was, because of the fact that he led the league in passing yards with over 5,100 yards, the fact that he led the league with touchdowns with 43, only had 12 picks, finished second in the MVP voting behind Aaron Rodgers, the fact that he had accrued all these accolades and all these achievements and was still this productive in year 44 is what made it so perplexing and kind of surprising when he did decide to announce his retirement. Because people were saying, well, this guy is still extremely, extremely productive on the football field. Now he's walking away. That surprised people in and of itself. So the fact that now, he'll be given at least one more season, then he'll become another free agent at the end of the 2022 season where he can decide to either remain in Tampa, choose another location, or head for the broadcast booth. He'll have that same choice coming up next year. This is the final year of his deal. But the one thing we've seen this offseason in sports, especially related to football, funny enough, is kind of the broadcaster movement, the broadcaster mobility, huge paydays. It's almost been an NFL announcer roulette is what we've seen. Al Michaels obviously was the first domino to fall, leaving Sunday Night Football on NBC for Amazon's Thursday Night Football. And Kirk Herbstreit is going to be serving a dual role, going to be having dual citizenship with Amazon and ESPN, serving as the Thursday night color analyst to Al Michaels on Thursdays, and then also doing college football for ESPN. And we saw it happen at Fox, their number one duo team and tag team. Troy Aikman departed Fox for ESPN. He's going to be paid an annual salary of $18 million a year. Now Joe Buck's officially left Fox to sign with ESPN as well on a similar $12 to $15 million per year type of contract. So we're seeing this happen all over the place, but especially with the analysts, we're seeing how lucrative this is becoming. Tony Romo signed a couple years ago a massive $17 million per year deal over the course of 5 years. Obviously, now Troy Aikman had been the highest paid analyst at $90 million at $18 million per year salary. But it's interesting because, again, we've never had as a lead analyst the most popular athlete of the sport serve in that role. Again, Shaq's an analyst, but he's not a broadcaster at the games. Dwayne Wade doesn't really broadcast at the games. There are levels. There are levels to this. And so he can command. I mean, he's the greatest of all time, so he can command this type of money. And obviously, the question is going to be how intriguing, how interesting is he going to be? How witty, how clever can he be? Because obviously, the first couple of games and likely the first year, people are going to tune in simply to listen to Tom Brady. He's obviously a good-looking guy. He's the greatest to ever play the game. Extremely knowledgeable, perhaps the most knowledgeable player of all time in the sport. And to hear his insight, to hear how he sees the field in certain situations is imperative. And it's also extremely intriguing and something that people will crave. But what we've seen from the best broadcasters and the best analysts is how they communicate it. Is you can be extremely intelligent, you can know the game inside out, but if you can't communicate it in a digestible manner to the audience, well, then it's kind of futile you being out there. And so that's going to be the question to me with Tom Brady is how kind of personable can he be? And obviously people want to hear what he says, but he's not kind of one of those athletes that naturally oozes a ton of charisma like a Peyton Manning, who we've seen obviously like Tony Romo, and we've seen some of the greatest athletes, greatest NFL quarterbacks come out of or after their playing days in retirement. They decide to join media and they try to become an analyst. We saw that with Drew Brees. Unfortunately, Drew Brees wasn't a great color analyst. Tony Romo has been. He's been exceptional. We saw Jason Witten, wasn't really a great analyst. But we also see Greg Olson, who has been. He's been fantastic. So, and the guys that are really good, they just have a likability factor about them. And so far, the only instances we've seen Brady kind of interact, quote unquote, off the cuff is in the match, the golf tournament, where he's delivered some clever lines. But that's the most personality that we've ever seen. And so it's going to be interesting to see just how seamlessly he transitions into that role. How objective will he be? I'm sure he will prepare. The guy is maniacal in his preparation, just like he's been for 22 years in the NFL. So I'm sure he'll take this job extremely seriously and try to be the best that he can be. But it's a difficult job. And I'm not sure if that's something that's natural for him. But listen, from Fox's perspective, it's huge. They obviously needed to sign a major name. They needed a huge splash. They had a huge void to fill after Troy Aikman and Joe Buck both left. So they needed to make a big splash. Tom Brady is about as big as it gets when it comes to that. And here's the amazing thing. For Brady, over the course of his 22 years playing, he only made He made roughly $320 million a year over the course of his playing career. This contract of 10 years, $375 million is going to pay him more. He's going to earn more from this contract than he did in his entire playing career, which is almost unfathomable. So congrats to him on that, for being able to simply show up once a week for 4 months, make a couple occasional appearances, and make $37.5 million a year. It's pretty remarkable, but it's kind of a major story because, again, you just don't see guys of his stature. The Mount Rushmore of athletes in a sport decide to take their talents to media. Most of the time, they just stay a little bit more behind the scenes with their own projects and whatnot. But this is major coup for Fox. But we'll see how it pays out. We'll see how it pays off.